Welcome in everybody to Fantasy Pros. Here comes the judge, baby. It's fantasy football draft court. Yet again, another episode here of Judge Joey. And to help us with the debates today, Terrell Furman Jr. and my patty cakes, Pat Fitzmaurice. We're going to be talking about a quarterback, a running back today, and also we're going to talk about some draft strategies. Why? Because we're a show of the people. This courtroom is here to serve the law and order and, most importantly, the will of the people. And the people have been asking, hey, will you debate some draft strategies? And guess what? Judge Joey hears you. He wants to help you, and we're going to help you today. Again, Terrell Furman Jr. is going to defend the ECR. Pat Fitzmaurice has some aggressive rankings. You two gentlemen have been in this courtroom before. You know the rules. You know how things go. Before we get into all of that, a quick shout out, because guess what? This time next week, it's a very special event here at Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. So you better subscribe, because we have got the Fantasy Fest. That's right. It's starting next week, baby. All day. Basically, tomorrow is the last time here. I want you to subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe right now, because next Tuesday on the 19th, starting at 2 p.m. Eastern, we are going to be rocking and rolling here. Fantasy Fest. We've got incredible guests. We've got incredible content for you. We're going to be live all day, of course. If you want, you can always watch it back on the YouTube channel, but subscribe to the YouTube channel. Drop your comments below, because if you do those things, you might win this incredible looking, sexy A.J. Brown helmet. That's right, everybody. The A.J. Brown helmet, the military style one. Very cool. Go Birds. Let's go. That's going to be available for you from pristineauction.com. How do you win this giveaway this month? Drop your comments, like the video right now. Of course, why wouldn't you like the video? It's Fantasy Court. And subscribe, ring the bell till it goes ding, drop your comments. That's it. And you're automatically entered to win. We're going to give this bad boy away very soon. We gave away the James Cook jersey. Now we're giving away the A.J. Brown helmet. All right, gentlemen. I hope you have brought your documents to court. I hope you have practiced your arguments. Terrell Furman Jr., it is good to see you back in the courtroom. You're defending, once again, the ECR. You're the public defender around here, which I like. Do you find pressure here defending the analysts that you may or may not even know what their takes are?
Not on my salary. I don't feel any pressure at all. Maybe if I had a little bit of bucks up in here, then I might feel a little bit more pressure. But no, I feel cool, calm, relaxed, because I looked at the list and I was like, really, Pat? Really? Like, this feels like it's a little bit too easy for me.
Pat Fitzmaurice, those are fighting words. A very confident Terrell Furman Jr., but then again, isn't he always? So, Pat, you've planted the flag on a couple players here, including a quarterback that we're going to talk about. And we're going to talk about Superflex today. We're going to talk about zero versus hero RB. So all the conversations that you've been itching to have, we're going to have here today. Pat, how do you feel about defending some theoretical strategies today as opposed to just players?
Yeah, I feel good. Terrell's talking about the public defenders don't make all that much money, but I'm my firm. I'm like up for partner here, so I'm feeling good about things, and there's a little pressure. So let's go.
Look, you've made your money and you made your bones in this business by trampling on Andrew Erickson. So we'll see if Terrell Furman Jr. is as much of a doormat. Because guess what? Fantasy football draft court is officially in session. Judge Joey is the judge. Joey, an executioner around these parts. Let's start here with a quarterback. Drake May, my quarterback of my beloved New England Patriots, looked pretty good here early on. A lot of good buzz going around. A lot of Pop Douglas talk. A lot of, Stephon Diggs looks healthy. A lot of, maybe Kyle Williams is going to be a great guy in the second half of the season. A lot of positive things going around Drake May. And guess who's drinking the Kool-Aid? Pat Fitzmaurice. It's red, white, and blue flavor. That's right. That's what it is. Not exactly sure what that means, but I imagine some sort of blue raspberry and some cherry mixed in there. But we have got Drake May at QB9 on Fitz's rankings, but Terrell Furman Jr., the ECR, is a little bit more reserved. We're looking at a QB15 ranking, right on the fringe, a guy that you could draft in deeper single quarterback leagues, or even as a second quarterback if you really wanted to have some upside there. There's some rushing equity when it comes to Drake May. We all know that, but we really don't know how good he could be because he was in an offense led by a bunch of jabronis last year, and now he's got some help on the offensive line. He's got some help there with an offensive coordinator. So let's start here with Pat Fitzmaurice. I want you to go out there and I want you to talk to me, Pat, about this aggressive ranking of Drake May in the top 10. Why do you think people should be drafting him that early?
Because in 2024, the skeleton key at the quarterback position was Jaden Daniels, the guy who was affordable but gave us high-end QB1 upside. And this year, I think Drake May is the skeleton key at quarterback. And as a rookie, May started 12 games, left one of them early in the second quarter with concussion, and in meaningless Week 18, he played 3 snaps before getting pulled. The other 10 starts, Drake May averaged 17.4 fantasy points per game, which would have ranked QB 13 among quarterbacks who made more than one start. Now, if we exclude that Week 18 game where May got pulled after one series, he averaged 36.3 rushing yards per start. That projects to 616 rushing yards over a full season. But I think there's more meat on the bone with regard to Drake May's rushing potential. Like nearly all of his rushing yardage came on scrambles. He had a one designed run last year, just one. And Alex Van Pelt, who was the Patriots offensive coach last year, said he intentionally limited designed runs for May in order to protect him. And I totally get that. But now Josh McDaniels is calling the plays. And when we last saw McDaniels paired with a mobile quarterback, it was Cam Newton in 2020. And there were a lot of design runs that year for Cam, and he ran for 12 touchdowns. And last year, May had 2 touchdown runs, but when he was playing at North Carolina, he had 16 touchdown runs in 26 starts. And as a sophomore, May had 698 rushing yards in 14 games. College quarterbacks get sack yardage deducted from their rushing total. May lost about 200 yards in sacks that year. So he was really closer to 900 rushing yards in 14 games. Like this dude has big time rushing upside, and he was a competent passer last year, even though he had a terrible offensive line and terrible wide receivers. So with that high-end rushing side, a la Jaden Daniels, and some intriguing passing upside, tons of potential here. He could absolutely finish as a high-end quarterback 1, and that's why I've got him ranked inside the top 10.
All right, a very aggressive ranking there for Pat Fitzmaurice. Terrell Furman, let's talk about this because Pat makes a good case here. The mobility of one Drake May, obviously a big deal. Maybe some more design runs. So he's making a motion here in my courtroom for the Drake May motion, but it doesn't feel like you necessarily feel like that motion is worthy of a top 10 or even a QB1 pick here. So let's talk about this here, Terrell Furman. Give me your take here on why the ECR and the conservative approach is the best one when it comes to Drake May.
Oh, well, because one has him inside the top 10 and one doesn't.
Get out of there.
This is a lot of
Hey!
a lot of Drake May is
Get out of there.
His ceiling. This is what we're looking at him from his ceiling. This is what's going to go on when, hey, he's has the vision and he's able to do everything he can do, throwing the football, getting it to Stephon Diggs and all these options. It is the upside of the rushing that he can be one of those high volume rushers. But then you also have to go back and look at that's the clear ceiling. There's a bottoming out floor that could happen with Drake May here where he still has a rough offensive line like he did last year. And it could be, even though they have gotten different pieces, not necessarily the cohesion that they're looking for. As of right now, it looks like they're projecting 2 rookies with Will Campbell and their 3rd round pick Wilson on the other side of that left side of that line. And 2 rookies trying to figure out that communication on that side of the line can really, really be something that hinders an offensive line, especially on that side. So I think that they're going to get a lot of issues where he's going to get sacked. He got sacked in the preseason game already. I think he's going to get rattled. It's going to be some sophomore slump issues here for Drake May, where I think, yes, is he going to have top 10 weeks? Absolutely. Do I think he's going to keep it up over the course of the whole season? Absolutely not. So I have to defend the ECR here.
Terrell Furman Jr., I have to apologize. I thought I hit my mute button, but I did not. My dog was getting into some bad things here. We have a foster dog at the house, and she sometimes gets a little nosy around here. She heard the Drake May talk. She wanted to come in and join a little bit of it. So I hope everybody enjoyed that. But she was getting nosy in the trash over there by the bathroom. And Drake May is far from trash.
We're professional. Try to keep it going.
I thought I hit the right button, but unfortunately I did not. Well, all I did was I stopped.
Do not cut this out, producers. Don't cut that out. Keep that in there.
You're lucky it wasn't expletives. That's all I'm saying there. So I look, people who've watched Judge shows before know that Judge Judy sometimes can drop some language once and again, and I'm not above that either. Sometimes we get a little little tense here. So look, it's a lot of good debates here. We're gonna keep that going here. This is why I don't have Pats. This is why I was doing this. But here we go. No 7-second delay. No 5-second delay here. Nothing here. But and just go. If you get in trouble here, I will yell at you in this courtroom. I will make you go to timeout. I'm not above it all. So apologies there for the live show, but hey, people are gonna love this in the YouTube comments. They're gonna absolutely love it. So Drake May, obviously, not a guy that you have to drop into your plans at QB1. But to Pat's point, we saw Jaden Daniels kind of run that same game last year and end up being a league winner. So I'm going to put it to the people here. It is your opportunity to go ahead and make your voice heard. So I want you to do that right now. So let's put up the poll. Are you drafting Drake May here inside the top 10, or are you letting him float there as maybe a last round kind of guy? The jury will now deliberate. And I got to say, Terrell Furman, I think there's upside. I think you recognize that. And I think as the jury does their deliberation here, I think the big question here is, what also do you think about the pieces surrounding him? Not just the new / old offensive coordinator, but the health of Stephon Diggs, the explosiveness of Travion Henderson. There's certainly a lot here that one could be excited about. However, none of it's proven in a court of law quite yet. Terrell, do you think that's the most important thing when it comes to that Drake May value, that it just hasn't been proven?
Yeah, and I mean, that's the fun in fantasy football sometimes, is calling your shot and saying, hey, no, this is going to be a year. I don't need to see it before because I know it's going to happen this year. But for me, it's a lot of other pieces that I think a lot of people aren't considering, especially with the health of that offensive line, that, yes, they have different pieces in there, but if it's still just as bad as it was last year, it's going to be really hard for anybody to succeed.
All right. So obviously some people, understand that sometimes things happen here. Yeah, they should make it I like Kyle thing. Make it a YouTube short. Let's go. Of me yelling at the dog without hitting. I thought for sure I clicked it. I ended up clicking the wrong button here. So now I'm going to have 2 recordings, which is even more annoying for our staff here. And yes, Anthony's also right. Anthony Perkins, correct. Stay off my lawn. You get out of my trash and out of my lawn. You stay out of those things. Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. But I will throw you out of the courtroom. I'm not against it. Pat Fitzmaurice, any closing arguments here before the people give out their actual debate here? The jury trying to give their deliberation right now before they come to a decision. Any final thoughts on Drake May? You want to sell them on that upside there?
No, I'm content with my argument. I just have to comment, Joe, it's I've been to Italy, and they'll let stray dogs kind of wander into the restaurants there. That was kind of a unique thing I discovered when we spent some time. And, I guess in an Italian judge's courtroom, they're going to be stray dogs wandering.
Let me tell you, this dog's been very good. She's very sweet. But here's the problem. She's a little mischief sometimes, right? And the one thing is she gets mischief. We have a door that she can open with her nose, because in the summertime, the way the bathroom is, it's right next to the AC unit, the door. So the door shrinks so you can push it in. And she realized this, so now she pushes it in there. And it's right by my office, and she knows better! I love you, but you know better. Go play with your toys. All right, so everybody else has played with their toys here, and they have come to a verdict right now. And this is probably going to be our most viewed YouTube video all year, I can tell you right now. All right, let's take a look at the tail of the tape. Seth just got us the results. 56%. Very close, gentlemen. Very close. They say that they are going to draft Drake May. Lock it up. Draft him. The ECR too conservative. And look, the conservative Terrell Furman Jr. argument, unfortunately, not enough to defend. Terrell, does this decision surprise you here, or do you think people just love to be ahead of the curve with the up-and-coming young quarterback and buying all the hype? What do you think?
No, it's not surprising. A lot of people want to like the Patriots this year, and I realize that I'm one of the few that it's not as high on the Patriots as everybody else. They'll be okay, so sure.
Well, I will allow it because I understand as a Giants fan, you have certain history with the Patriots where you feel a certain way, and rightfully so. Maybe you don't think enough of that organization, having lost a couple Super Bowls. Pat Fitzmaurice, how does it feel to be the victor here in this first decision of 5 today?
Yeah, pretty good. It was a close, hard contested case, but Drake May has been kind of a flag plant guy for me, so it does feel especially good to win this one.
All right. I love the comments here. Everybody having a good time here at my expense, which is fine because I have no shame. I think we've realized this. If you haven't realized that now by watching me do this show every week with this wig and this getup, that I have very little shame, then you haven't been paying attention. Make sure you subscribe for more Fantasy Pros and more courtroom decisions that we're going to have here on the program. And our next decision is going to be made about a running back. That's right. Fantasy Court is now in session again. This time, talking about a running back in a very precarious situation. This situation that the running back is in Cleveland, Ohio. And oh my, oh, it's not looking too good for some of these guys like Quinshon Judkins. And we got Sampson in this backfield. We got 5 quarterbacks, which means we really have no quarterbacks. It's a hot mess. I'm going to be honest with you. But perhaps in that mess, as we alluded to earlier, when you're nuzzling through the trash like some dogs want to do in my house sometimes, every now and then you might find something useful in that trash. And we're going to debate whether or not Jerome Ford is useful. So let's bring Jerome Ford up on the witness stand and let's make a case here for Jerome Ford. Now, taking a look at the tail of the tape here, we have Pat Fitzmaurice at RB39. So looking at him as a potential flex kind of guy. Feeling like, maybe you can be in that flex conversation. Maybe you are the guy. You know the offense, you've been here, and you haven't gotten arrested yet. Maybe some other guys from this backfield might end up in my courtroom a little bit later on in the season. We'll see. But Terrell Furman Jr., you're the guy who's going to defend here the expert consensus ranking of 47. So Jerome Ford, persona non grata when it comes to the people. So Terrell, this time I want you to take the floor first. Defend the ECR. Talk to me about why it's better to either stay away from this backfield or just stay away from Jerome Ford altogether, because this situation certainly is murky. The court is now in session for you, Terrell.
I mean, I don't even feel like a defender here. I feel like a prosecutor here. And I feel like Pat is defending Jerome Ford because nobody's defending Jerome Ford, not even the Browns, because the Browns went and took Quinshon Judkins in the 2nd round and Dylan Sampson in the 4th round. Nobody wants Jerome Ford. They haven't believed in him in this whole 2-year run. I think that we go back and they're like, oh, 2 years ago, Jerome Ford was all good. It was healthy. The offensive line was healthy. He had this good season, but you got to look. They still didn't trust him with the snap count. He only played 70% of snaps once that entire season, and that was his best season. And so in a Jerome Ford that's now 2 years older, he's been battling injuries last year. He's battling an injury again this year, and Dylan Sampson looks amazing. He looks like a running back that they drafted him to have that second down skill set to take over the passing role. And unfortunately, Quinshon Judkins got himself in trouble, and now his status is up in the air. But what if he plays? You can't even play Jerome Ford at all in most formats if it's the Judkins and Sampson show. So I want nothing to do with Jerome Ford this year. The Browns clearly want nothing to do with Jerome Ford, but they're just stuck with him.
I'd like to throw this whole case out because I want nothing at all to do with the Browns backfield. I want very little to do with the Browns, period. I keep taking some late shots on Cedric Tillman because I liked him in college, and I thought he would be a guy. And then last year, he kind of was a guy before he got hurt. So that's about the only Browns player that seems to find his way onto my rosters. But Pat Fitzmaurice, your ranking almost suggests that it is somebody worth drafting, right? He's not a guy in the 40s. He's a guy in the 30s at RB. And the guys in the 30s at RB do get some play here in our fantasy leagues. So let's talk about Jerome Ford. Let's write a script here where Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson, the rookies, don't impact this backfield the way maybe Cleveland had hoped or the way fantasy managers hoped, but instead, Jerome Ford ends up being kind of the default guy by default.
Well, Your Honor, what if you can draft a starting NFL running back as a low-end RB4? And there is a very good chance that Quinshon Judkins doesn't play this season. Like, the Browns are not even negotiating with him at this point. And it's kind of understandable why the Browns are being cautious with a player who stands accused of mistreating a woman. Like the franchise dug itself an enormous hole by committing itself to Deshaun Watson. So extra caution warranted here for the Cleveland Browns. If Judkins doesn't play, Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson are the top 2 running backs in Cleveland. I fully acknowledge that Sampson could end up being the more valuable of the 2. I really liked what he put on tape at Tennessee, but it is really hard to judge players from Tennessee because Josh Heupel's offensive system is so unconventional, so unlike anything we see in the NFL. And a lot of people like Jalen Wright coming out of Tennessee a year ago, and he has shown us nothing at the NFL level yet. Now, Ford, on the other hand, has been pretty good whenever he's gotten an opportunity. He's versatile. He can run. He can catch. And his big advantage over Dylan Sampson right now is his familiarity with Kevin Stefanski's system. And we saw Jerome Ford average 5.4 yards per carry last year, albeit in limited dosages. And over the last 2 years, Jerome Ford
I object to your confusion about the pluralization of the word dosage. I believe it is dosages and not dosage but sustained. You may continue.
Thank you. And 81 catches for Jerome Ford over the last 2 years. So I think there is, should he get a starting opportunity, he is a guy you can play at least as a flex every week and start him every week.
All right, so let's put it to the jury now. You've heard the arguments. We're going to continue to make some more, so let's get the poll up. This is where you get to vote. This is why this is such a fun show. You get to decide at the end of the day, is it someone we're drafting? Now, again, he's a cheap running back, and I like cheap running backs. Judge Joey is a fan, especially the big wide receiver build guys like me and the public defender here today, Terrell Furman Jr., also a big wide receiver, bro, right? Am I right, Terrell? You feel me?
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
So let's talk about this a little bit. Let's dig a little deeper. Patty, you are the dynasty guy. Do you think from a talent standpoint that Sampson should be the pivot point here? Did you see enough out of him in college to say, hey, you know what? We know what Jerome Ford is. Let's find out what Sampson is, and maybe it does go his way?
I mean, realistically, I think they're going to be used together, whether it's in a 50-50 split, a 60-40 split. I think we're going to see both guys. But, you know, I think Sampson probably has the less wiggle room, less leash, being the new guy. And, you know, we'll see how he takes to the NFL. Again, it's a tough transition from the Josh Heupel system where running backs always have a lot of room to run because of the way Heupel likes to spread them out and always going against light boxes. It's not the same thing, especially when you're in the AFC North and there's some pretty good defenses you're going against.
Yeah. Speaking of leashes, the dog, you hear that? Get out of the trash. That's what you do. Stay out of my trash. You know, I want to protect her. I don't want her to get into the trash there. Stupid little bathroom trash. I'm going to eat a Q-tip. I mean, what the hell is going to come from that? No good's going to come from that. Terrell Furman Jr., I have to say, Patty does make a really interesting argument, too, talking about, you know, this organization and why this issue is so important here to this organization, having had to go through all of the drama with Deshaun Watson already. It just feels like it's something that Cleveland Browns, you know, there's only so many kind of hits you can take here. And they might have to just eat this one when it comes to Quinshon Judkins. Like, they might just have to say, you know what? You know, we can't do this. The organization needs such an overhaul from a public perception standpoint. You think perception at the end of the day ends up delivering this backfield to Jerome Ford? Once again, I keep saying by default, but when you got a rookie and it wasn't the rookie you drafted to lead the backfield, it does feel like Jerome Ford could possibly be that guy at the end of the day who ends up getting maybe the 60-40 at the very least, or as Pat said, you know, working in the passing game, which from a fantasy perspective is very useful.
Yeah, I don't think the passing game is just going to get to him. I think that at that point, it's going to be the talent of the player. And I think Dylan Sampson, the talent of the player, is going to show in that moment. But Jerome Ford, I could see him being, hey, early down back will give him some of the major work. And that's when he sees the heavier boxes. And maybe it's a thing where Sampson comes in and he's getting lighter boxes. So he's having more explosive plays. He's getting really, really active in the passing game. And that's how his fantasy worth is determined. But I think both of these guys, whichever one pops, is going to be a nice little flex option.
All right. Before we get to the decision, it is official here. I have seen it. I want to remind everybody, this is not the only place we're live. No, not just the YouTube channel. Subscribe there, but also follow and subscribe over on Twitch, twitch.tv/FantasyPros. That's the place to be 5 days a week, Mondays at 4, Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 2, and Thursdays and Fridays at 5 o'clock, where you can get your questions answered here by the experts. Again, subscribe, use your Amazon Prime, get rid of those nasty commercials, be part of it. Look, the YouTube channel is always packed, rightfully so, because we're popular and we're fun and we're awesome. But the Twitch is a great way. If you really got a question you're dying to get answered, you can go to that Twitch and some of these live streams and get it answered right away and have a big, long discussion, because the Twitch is still new and still growing. So it's a pivot point. If you like Twitch, go use it. If you're new to Twitch, here's a reason to join. Again, Fantasy Pros, that's the place to be on Twitch 5 days a week. All right, let's get after it here. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape. This one is a very decisive decision here. This is no room for clouds or questions. 73% have weighed in on the side of no, we are not drafting Jerome Ford. Case is dismissed. He is guilty of being mediocre, and the Browns are guilty of being a terrible organization yet again. They just can't get out of their own way. Pat, this was an uphill battle for you. I assume you're not super surprised, but despite the will of the people here, are you going to have some Jerome Ford shares? Tell the truth. Be honest.
I am. And if the people would rather spend that 12th round draft pick on Romeo Doubs or Chigo Okonkwo, what can I do?
What can you do? Terrell Furman, your first win of the day. How does it feel to be victorious?
It feels very good. Feels very good. These are the type of wins that move you from the defender's office to the ADA's office. So I'm very happy.
There you go. I always knew Terrell Furman Jr. was some upwardly mobile. Next thing you know, he's going to be running for mayor and then governor and all the other. And then all the scandals will come out. But for now, it's a win. And a win is a win here in fantasy draft court. So Jerome Ford, don't draft him. And I recommend stay away from the Browns as much as you can. Maybe a little Jerry Jeudy. Maybe a little Cedric Tillman once in a while. A David Njoku if you're feeling spicy. But other than that, I don't know, man. I'm not super excited about the offensive ecosystem of the Cleveland Browns. We're going to turn our attentions now to another fantasy debate, but this time it's not about players. No. We're going to talk about strategy. And the first strategy we're going to talk about is whether you're going great or late at the tight end position. And Terrell Furman Jr. and Pat Fitzmaurice are going to debate this. So, Pat, I have handed you the side of the early tight end, the stars, the Brock Bowers, the Trey McBrides, dare I say, the George Kittles even. And then there's the late tight ends. There's some good values there. We got some rookies like Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland now working in a Ben Johnson offense. Not to mention, there's also some really good guys sitting out there too. We've got Jake Ferguson. We got Kraft. We got a lot of late tight ends. Hell, I think even Mark Andrews goes too late. So Terrell Furman's going to take the other side of this debate. Pat Fitzmaurice, we'll start with you. Obviously, when you build a roster with an early tight end, sometimes it doesn't quite look the way the other rosters do, right? Because you're missing out on one of those big running backs, one of those big wide receivers in that second or maybe even third round. So sell me on why that's a good decision when it comes to guys like Brock Bowers and McBride to jump in the pool with 2 feet on the early great tight ends in 2025.
Well, I'd like the fine members of the jury to consider Exhibit A and Exhibit B, which are the projections for Brock Bowers and Tyler Warren. Note that it's 100 and some receptions versus 50 some receptions and 1,100 some yards versus 600 some yards. Like, that's a big difference and a big positional advantage if you invest. And I know there's some people, and I've even sort of tried to make this case myself this year, that you can get something you like at a lot of different price points at tight end in the fantasy market. But we've thought that before and thought that the mid-tier and dumpster diving approach to tight end might work. And that is the reason that Travis Kelce was being considered as a possible late first round pick for many years, because a lot of people would go that mid-range tight end route and be bitterly disappointed in what they found. And, look at what's available at the mid-range level this year. There's an aging Mark Andrews. There's David Njoku, who might be dealing with questionable quarterback issues. There's Evan Ingram, who has been wildly inconsistent and injury-prone throughout his career. Tucker Kraft, who may or may not be something. So there's a lot of uncertainty yet again in that mid-range tight end market, whereas you've got like 3 elite tight ends with Brock Bowers and Trey McBride and George Kittle, who can just give you such a massive positional advantage. And I think that's especially important if you play in a smaller league, like a 10-team league. It really helps if you differentiate yourself in those smaller leagues at the onesie positions, quarterback and tight end. So I do think there is a big advantage to investing heavily at the tight end position.
All right, well, look, there is a distinct advantage, right? Especially with a guy like Brock Bowers. Now, Trey McBride didn't have a lot of touchdowns last year, but touchdowns, as Derek Brown likes to point out, aren't sticky, which is a gross way to think about it, but it's Derek Brown. So what do you want? Then you've got guys like Brock Bowers, who, arguably this year playing with the best quarterback he's played with, right? I mean, certainly last year's quarterback play with Vegas was not great. So a distinct advantage there on those guys because they will perform like a wide receiver 2 or maybe even greater. And Brock Bowers, I mean, the sky could be the limit for this kid. He is a special talent. But Terrell, it's not the only place there's talent. And again, from a roster construction standpoint, sometimes the late tight end can be very interesting. I agree with Pat's sentiment, and he kind of slipped it in there, which was, if you're paying attention, that middle tight end sometimes is the tricky spot. That's the dangerous spot, unless you really are honing in on one guy that you really think is above that tier. But Terrell, make a case for the late tier, especially this year with the way the prize pool looks like at tight end. Talk to me about the late tight ends and why people should be looking at that as a viable strategy this season.
I mean, if you looked at Brock Bowers' fantasy projection last year and what it was nowhere near where he finished and how good he was. And because of the talent of the player and how good he was, and the rookie, you didn't know what happened. Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, you don't know. These players could absolutely pop. Tyler Warren looks amazing in camp, and by all indications is going to get a lot of targets this year. But then you have those veteran players that are just down there at the bottom, where you can get a positional advantage in your third wide receiver spot, in a second RB spot, somewhere else, by drafting up there and snagging Hunter Henry in the late ends of drafts. All the time, Hunter Henry goes in the back end of drafts, and then you look up and he's a top 13 tight end. And so it's all the positional advantage. You look at the teams over the course of the season that we stream tight ends against, that you could have a big tight end day and you could be picking somebody up off the waiver wire, going up against the Panthers last season, who were second in tight end fantasy points per game, the Bengals, who were first in tight end fantasy points per game. So, yeah, I think that there's other options to kind of get that positional advantage that you want, where you can compete with the guys. No, you don't have Brock Bowers. No, you don't have Trey McBride. No, you don't have George Kittle. It's only one of those. But you can compete and put yourself very close into the tier with some good strategy, streaming and playing around with the late tight ends on the waiver wire.
All right. The gentlemen here have made their case for the great or the late tight end strategy. But again, after all, it's the people who decide around this court. So it's not the people's court. It's still Judge Joey around these parts, still fantasy draft court. But I want to hear from the people. So now is the time to vote. Do you want to go great tight end? You want to be aggressive there with the big stars, or do you want to take some shots, some of the rookies or some of the guys that are getting underlooked, overlooked, side looked, whatever kind of looked, hoodwinked, bamboozled, any of the above? I want to know. So make sure you go and vote in the poll right now, and that's why you're watching us live on the YouTube channel. While we debate this, let's talk about some of these guys here, because Pat Fitzmaurice, I mean, one of your favorite things to do from some of these drafts that I've been in with you is throwing darts at Kyle Pitts, tight end 16 in the ECR right now. So I know I kind of put you in a spot where you had to defend the great tight end strategy, and it is a viable one, but it feels like deep down you're a guy that likes to, be the smartest one in the room, and maybe you're playing around there with our psyche a little. Do you think that maybe deep down Pat Fitzmaurice is really a late tight end kind of guy?
I can be at times, Joe. I don't mind a good tight end dumpster dive, and Kyle Pitts does still, like, I'm one of the few guys who hasn't waved the white flag on Kyle Pitts. He's still only 24, and this is the first, like, he played his first NFL game at age 20, and he went on to have the first 1,000 yard season by a rookie tight end since Mike Ditka 60 years earlier. And he's still only 24, and he's the former number 4 overall pick. And he has a plausible path to being the number 2 target in that offense behind Drake London, because, normally I'd say Darnell Mooney is probably the favorite, but Darnell Mooney is a bum shoulder right now. So, I think there's a path. I think Michael Penix is a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins was. I would not be surprised if we saw the long-awaited Kyle Pitts encore to that 1,000-yard rookie season well after the fact, and well after he's burned a lot of fantasy managers and built up a lot of scar tissue for some people.
Terrell, obviously the strategy is malleable, which is a big word. If you don't know it, I want everybody out there to look it up. But Terrell knows it because he's a smart guy. Terrell, if it's a 10-team league, Are you more apt to maybe dance with Brock Bowers or Trey McBride, right? Because the supply and demand is a little bit different, right? You can afford, if it's a 2 wide receiver, 10-person league, all of a sudden the dynamic changes. Or if it's a tight end premium, are you somebody that goes, hey, not only do I want to get a tight end, I want to get the best tight end I possibly can? So does the league dictate a little of the strategy to you?
Yeah, absolutely. A 10-team league, I'm definitely looking for the early tight end. And I will take one of the Bowers or the Laporta or, all these early tight ends that you typically pay up for. Those are somebody that I would consider just because, yeah, it is a smaller pool. And I know that I'm 100% want that positional. That's what I look at the points, and I want that positional points advantage of every given week. It's probably a top 10 tight end in the starting lineup of somebody's lineup. So I just want the best one of those.
All right, let the record show Judge Joey hates tight end premium leagues. It's stupid. What are we doing here? What we take the best couple tight ends and just make them better? Is that what we're trying to do? Like, why do we have to do this? In fact, if anything, we should move to the new flex league strategy, which this year we're playing Jake Seeley's league, which is the expert league where it's a super flex, but the other flex spot is there. However, you don't have to play a tight end. The other spot has now become tight end / wide receiver, which really kind of opens up things for debate. And it was interesting to watch how that little change there. Again, if you're going to change something, make it easier, not harder. Don't make things have artificial value. Don't play 2 kickers or have weird kicker scoring or weird tight end scoring. I hate it. It's for people who aren't good at fantasy trying to game the system. And you don't game the system in my courtroom. You sit down, trying to game the system. All right, the results are in. And I got to say, it's tight. Tighter than I thought it would be. 55%. That is the percentage of people that are going to be waiting on tight end. So late tight end is the winner. So avoid drafting those big boys at tight end because that price tag might hurt your roster later on in the draft. So case is closed here on this one. We're taking shots at tight end in 2025. Again, it's circumstantial evidence, as Terrell even admitted when he was defending the late tight end strategy. Sometimes you can do it. 10-team leagues, tight end premium, which is dumb, but whatever.
And that's the best thing.
And
it's the best thing. Like one or the other. Don't be in the middle. That it doesn't matter if you like the great tight end, if you like the late tight end. Like it's both cool, but just don't be stuck in the middle.
You know what I like, Pat? I like the middle tight end late. I like when TJ Hawkinson falls in a draft or Mark Andrews slips a couple rounds too far. That, to me, is my late tight end. It's the guys that I like in the middle. I don't want to pay the middle price. Evan Ingram, another one of those guys. So, again, don't pay cost for those guys. And that, my friends, is a pathway to victory in 2025. So we're closing the book right now on the tight end debate. And we're going to have more debates here on the FantasyPros YouTube channel. Subscribe today and make sure you win all your fantasy leagues because we're dropping that knowledge for you all the time. So don't go anywhere. We're going to have more content here on the FP YouTube. Let's get to the next one here. This time, it's late or great QB. Late round QB, a famous strategy employed for years and years. But man, oh man, some of those special quarterbacks, the Lamars, the Josh Allens, the Jaden Daniels, the guys with that rushing equity, so damn sexy. Hard to get away from because those guys win you weeks. And that's what fantasy football is about. Guys who move the needle, guys who win you weeks. And there's only so many of them, but you got to pay for them. And the problem is, just like with the tight end, sometimes you look at the roster and you go, ooh, I don't love it. I'm missing out some wide receiver depth. I'm missing out some running backs. Again, depending on the size of your league, it's a little easier to maneuver this strategy. So this time around, Fitzy is going to take the position of the late QB. Terrell is going to take the position of the early QB, the studs. And Terrell, since you won the last one, I'm going to give you the floor here. Talk to me about why, and more importantly, when you pull the trigger on the big-time QBs who move the needle in fantasy football.
Oh, I mean, have you seen the meme of where it's just like Patrick behind the snow mound, and he's just throwing, and it's like Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. That simple. It's that simple. Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. Just put them in the lineup, and you know they're going to be great. You know that you're going to alleviate the pressure if you're weak in some areas. Maybe you're playing a lineup where you feel, or you're starting a team where, hey, you're taking some shots at running back, or maybe you're taking some shots at some later wide receivers, and you want that positional advantage in what Lamar Jackson, what Jaden Daniels last year, like what these top QBs are able to give you week after week after week sometimes. It's like having a whole extra player. And so, yes, the rushing upside of a Lamar Jackson and what he gives and how good he was last year, and what I'm expecting from Joe Burrow this year in a kind of revenge tour type of year as he walks into an MVP season. I think these are two quarterbacks that, yeah, by far and away, I would just go ahead, grab up and get, and then I can play around with my drafting later because I feel comfortable in some of the late wide receiver options, some of the late running back options that I can make.
Well, Terrell makes a good point. If you're going to employ one of these early tight end or early quarterback strategies, you better be the smartest person in the room. You better be using the tools like the draft assistant. I mean, that's a great tool that you should be using. If you haven't already, download the draft wizard app wherever you get your apps. It'll suggest live picks to you. It'll take you through. It'll give you options, suggestions. It'll tell you who's around you that has what already. Like, don't take a tight end here because these two teams picking after you already have one, so don't do that. You know, little tiny things like you're having a coach inside the room with you. Well, that's what it is. FantasyPros.com/assistant. Use it. Be part of the Fantasy Pros community. Don't be a tool. Use the tools to help dominate all your leagues and sync your leagues for free. Again, download the app wherever you get your apps for Fantasy Pros and use Draft Assistant among the many other tools to be successful. But getting back to the QBs, Terrell, what's the line for you? Obviously, it's Lamar. Obviously, it's Josh Allen. Is there somebody else that you stop the bus for and say, get on, we're going to the championship?
Joe Burrow.
See, that's mine too. And that surprises people. I was fourth in the Super Flex League draft this year, and I was taking Joe Burrow come hell or high water. And guess what? Jaden even fell to me. That was a little tricky there, but I still took Joe Burrow. So that's the right answer. There you go. Well done, Terrell. You got a knock there. All right. Pat Fitzmaurice. I got to say, QB depth much better this year than last year. I wrote about it in the Black Book. I think that QB this year at Superflex is a really interesting way you can maneuver around. But in single quarterback leagues, you have some guys that have fallen out of favor, but they've also fallen out of that top 10 discussion. Dak Prescott is right on the heels. Justin Fields is a guy that it might not look pretty, but the fantasy points are going to be there. Purdy's finished as a QB1 before. Justin Herbert being drafted outside the top 12. He has finished as a QB1 multiple times in his career. Jared Goff, even Jordan Love. There's a lot of these guys you could maybe play matchups with or make a case for and saying, hey, I can wait to the last round or even two and take two of these guys and play the upside or play the matchups. Why is that a viable strategy for you, Pat?
We've already talked about how Jaden Daniels was the skeleton key at quarterback last year, and he was kind of part of a mid-round QB strategy. You could get him later and he gave you high-end production. And, you know, it seems like the jury was with me on the pro Drake May argument. We refer to that in the legal game as precedent.
I saw that.
So
I'll allow it. Continue.
But here's the best case, Your Honor, that I can make for drafting a quarterback late. I know it's fun to have Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson as your quarterback, but taking a quarterback in the late second or third round is such a big sacrifice. Draft season is the time of year when people forget how often players get hurt. And this is the worst time of year to forget that. People draft their teams and they think, I've got 2 running backs and 3 receivers I really like. I'm all set. No, my friend, you are not set. If you lose 10 or 12 man games to injury combined at the running back and wide receiver positions over the course of a season, you are incredibly lucky. You could easily lose 25 to 30 man games to injury at those 2 positions. Tackle football is a brutal sport. Every play is basically a car crash. Like, players get hurt all the time. You think you're fine at wide receiver with your 3 guys, and all of a sudden one of them has a high ankle sprain. He's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. Another guy's a sprained AC joint in his shoulder. He's going to miss time. Now you're searching the waiver wire for wide receivers, and you're trying to figure out if Nick Westbrook-Akine continue to score touchdowns on 40% of his catches and be startable, even though he's averaging 3 targets a week. That's not where you want to be. At quarterback, you can always find a startable player on the waiver wire if you need one, either guys who are actually pretty decent or guys who have great matchups against bad defenses. A running back and wide receiver, good luck. It's just much harder to find startable players on waivers. That's why it's a good idea to hammer running back and wide receiver early on, build numbers at those positions, and have good running backs and receivers on your bench. It's harder to do that if you are drafting a quarterback in the 3rd round. You can wait and just draft a quarterback like Jordan Love, who routinely gets drafted like QB 18. The Packers' pass rate over expected last year was something like -8%. And that's because Jordan Love was hurt all year, never fully healthy. Sprained his MCL in week 1, just as he was starting to get back to 100%. He injured his groin and dealt with that injury the rest of the year. There's nothing in Matt LaFleur's coaching history to suggest that he is extraordinarily run heavy. Love is going to throw more this year. Mm-hmm. He could very well provide top 10 value at the QB position with a QB 18 selection. And I think that people are with me on Drake May being an incredible value at his current draft cost. That is the way to go. Hammer running backs and wide receivers early, save the quarterback for later.
All right. Well, we're not going to save the decision for later. We're going to open it up right now to you, the people. So the poll is up here. You want to go early, stud QB, or you want to go late round QB? The choice is yours. Choose wisely, though. The poll is now open here for you to make your decision and make your call here on Fantasy Pros YouTube channel on Fantasy Draft Court. Pat Fitzmaurice, if a quarterback, let me tempt you. Let's say Lamar Jackson falls into the late 3rd round. Are you pulling the trigger there? Your pause says it all. The answer is yes. Yes, you are. I know you. You will, won't you? No, but all honesty, would you? I mean, if you get a value you just can't pass up, especially if you're down by the turn, or would you jump in the QB water then for a guy like Lamar Allen? Let's say it's a really disciplined league where everybody wants to go late QB. Do you think you could pull that off?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of where I have Lamar and Josh Allen as late 3rd round values. But, the sacrifice you're making, I guess, there is a little bit less than it is early on. We know those guys go late 2nd round in a lot of the home leagues.
Yeah.
But if it's I'm not doing it if the sacrifice I have to make is a quarterback versus Kyron Williams or Garrett Wilson or Trey McBride or someone like that. But if it's, Breece Hall or Mike Evans versus Lamar Jackson, yeah, I might pull the trigger on Lamar at that point.
Terrell, is there a favorite of yours? Let's say that, the value is not there, or it's a draft where you just don't want to go early QB. What are some of your names in terms of some of the late QBs that kind of strike your fancy where you're like, yeah, you know what? I missed out on the run. That could happen too, just in your draft spot. All of a sudden they can go off the board 3 in a row. And then next thing you know, you're like, the value's gone on these guys. Now I got to pivot. What's your pivot point? Who are the late QBs that you like?
I think it really is Dak Prescott. I'm completely out on the defense of the Dallas Cowboys. I think that they are going to be down in a bunch of games. They're going to look horrible all year, but Dak Prescott is going to go out there, earn his money, and CeeDee Lamb is still a baller. And so I think that it's going to be a lot of plays like that. Pickens will make some sort of impact this year, and it'll be okay. But, yeah, I'm completely out on the defense of the Cowboys, so I think Dak Prescott's going to have a bunch of time for yards. This could be one of those 4,000-plus really big seasons for Dak.
All right, so the debate is still going on, and we are going to give you the response here in just a moment. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to Fantasy Pros channel as well. We got a lot of fun things here going on the channel. We got a lot of great content, and I've just been handed the slip here, and it's overwhelming. It is not close. 70% of the people here watching the show right now prefer the late round QB strategy, so avoid the late QB rules, the early QB rules. Avoid the early guys here. They think that's just going to screw up your roster. Look, again, I'm saying if I can get a discount, maybe a Joe Burrow slips to that 4th round. Ooh, that might be tough for me to say no to, I got to say.
I'll be following an appeal.
Well, you can follow the Court of Appeals, see how that goes for you. It's a lot of red tape. A lot of bureaucracy around these parts nowadays, I got to say, especially in the YouTube streets. It's really tough there. But, hey, you got to take your medicine here. The 70% of people have made their decision. It wasn't close, but I think a lot of the people watching us here, they're smart. They know. They use the tools. They're watching the shows. They're listening to the podcasts. They read the articles. They know what's up. They know that they can get some value at QB. The question is, how many do you want to take? You want to take a shot on 1 or 2? If I'm going to go late QB, I think I want 2. I just want to back it up, and I want to play the matchups. That's what I want to do. Maybe we'll have appeals court. Maybe we'll have to bring that back at some point. But for now, that decision is final. We are waiting on quarterback. Case dismissed. Another successful episode of Fantasy Football Draft Court is in the books. All right, we've got one more for you here, everybody. And this time, This is the new debate that everybody's been talking about. Everybody's been asking for. And guess what? Judge Joey's going to give it to you. Why? Because I'm a man of the people. I am just a humble public servant here at the end of the day in a very, very itchy wig that irritates my bald head for over 50 plus minutes every time we do this. And I'm sure I'm going to have to put some sort of lotion or cream on my head after this is over. But it doesn't matter because this might be the most important debate we have all year. When it comes to running back strategy, there's two camps nowadays. There's the hero RB and the zero RB. And they're both viable. They're both correct. It's just a matter of which one do you want to employ this year in 2025 and which one is the more viable strategy. So Pat Fitzmaurice and Terrell Furman Jr. are going to help debate this bad boy here. Fitz is going to be the hero RB guy because I've done a lot of drafts with Fitz. I know he's a hero kind of dude. And then Terrell Furman Jr., he's going to go the zero, and I know why. Because I've done a lot of drafts with Terrell, and I know how he drafts, which is like me, which is heavy wide receivers, and we're going to take some shots. So I can't wait to hear the response to these two guys here. Terrell, I want you to start here with this one for me. Let's lay out the strategy for the zero RB. Why is it a good strategy this season? And I have to assume part of this year's fancy for the zero RB has to be the health of that rookie running back class, which is the best we've had in a long time. To me, that's why I look at the hero RB and zero RB, and I kind of lean towards the zero side, but I don't want to tip the scales in my own courtroom. Terrell Furman Jr., I'm going to shut up now. I want you to take the reins here. Talk to me about this strategy and why people should employ it this season.
Well, there's a multitude of reasons. One of what happens every single season, and it's the fact that the RBs get hurt. A lot of those high value targets that you're taking in the first round get hurt. Christian McCaffrey really, really hurt you last year. Saquon Barkley could really, really hurt you this year. Like there's a lot of risk and a lot of draft equity up there when the wide receiver position is just so fat and there's so many different really, really good guys up there. And then remember, I was talking about I'm appealing my decision of the last ruling. It's a great system to also merge the early QB strategy. Get you a solid Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, somebody really, really solid at that QB position. Make sure you have that locked up week to week where you're getting those excess fantasy points and those boom weeks. And then you come in and you're looking at middle of the round running backs like RJ Harvey. You talk about this running back class. RJ Harvey, I'm really, really excited about him. Omari and Hampton, excited about him. You look a little bit further and deeper down, Isaiah Pacheco's going in the sixth round. Isaiah Pacheco was a top 15 RB 2 years ago, and he's fully healthy again, and he's still in an offense with Patrick Mahomes. He's going to have opportunities at the end zone. So if I'm going into a zero RB strategy and I end up in the sixth round with Isaiah Pacheco as my RB1, I feel pretty okay with that because I know I got some really, really good value at wide receiver, especially in these 3 wide receiver leagues as well. So yeah, I'm all for the zero RB strategy and just making sure you stack up those wide receivers, get you very, very good options there, maybe grab you that early quarterback, and then just go ahead and stack up and start taking a bunch of dart throws at these RBs who can become really, really valuable, including the handcuffs.
All right, we're going to hear Pat Fitzmaurice on the other side with the hero RB. Before we do, drop your comments below. Are you a hero RB drafter, a zero RB drafter? Who are your targets? Because your comment might win you our latest giveaway of Fantasy Pros, an A.J. Brown autographed helmet from pristineauction.com. This one's sweet, too. It's the military-style one. Go Birds! Let's go. This is a great helmet, again, from Pristine Auction. How do you win this? Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like this video. Drop your comments, and boom, just like that, you're automatically entered to win. All you have to do is those things, and don't forget to ring that bell till it goes ding for notifications so we can let you know that you're the big winner of the A.J. Brown helmet. This thing's not going to give away itself, folks, so get in there. All right, let's get to Pat Fitzmaurice's argument here. So, Pat, hero RB, the McCaffreys, the Derrick Henrys, the Bijans, man, you get one of those guys, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, we could have that debate another time, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about the hero RB strategy, getting that one dude that you can rely on. And then when do you get him? Does it have to be a first or second round guy? Or there's some guys there you feel good about being your hero RB and carrying your backfield while you're taking some shots later on?
I think it could pretty much be anywhere in the first 3 rounds to find that hero running back. I do think there are viable 3rd round hero running back possibilities. And I'm actually okay with 0 running back. I do think it's a plausible, viable strategy, but it's also somewhat risky strategy that depends on being able to find running backs beyond the top 20 at the position. And some years it's just really hard to do that. Take last year, for instance. And I know Terrell talked about running backs getting hurt a lot. And sometimes that maybe creates some bargains, guys who come off the bench and suddenly gain a lot of value. Well, last year, not many of the top running backs got hurt. I mean, there was Christian McCaffrey, yes, strange case where we got swerved before the season on the status of his injury, but otherwise, not a lot of running backs missed games last year. It was pretty much just McCaffrey and Pacheco. That was it. Meanwhile, we saw a lot of wide receivers get hurt and kind of crush the 0 RB strategy last year. We saw Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Rashee Rice, pretty much all of the Houston Texans receivers, T. Higgins, the list goes on and on. So there were really few opportunities for backup running backs to gain value, and it didn't leave the 0 RB drafters with many good options on waivers. It was also kind of a bad rookie class at running back that didn't really help. So a few of the rookies turned out to be bargains at ADP. There's something to be said for getting that one anchor running back and then trying to, ham and egg it with the other running back spot, as opposed to trying to ham and egg it at both running back spots. Like if you go 0 RB and it turns out to be a randomly bad year for that strategy, like last year was, you are in big trouble. I don't think there were many 0 RB drafters who walked away with championship belts last year. Some, but not many. And I do think 0 RB is viable, but it's undeniably risky. I would rather get that one anchor running back early in the first 3 rounds, and then you can still hammer wide receiver and, even pick up a tight end and still have very strong pass catchers.
All right. Let's put it to the jury. The poll is now up. Hero RB or 0 RB. Do you want that anchor, or do you want to just float around in those draft streams and those waters, just kind of going from buoy running back to buoy running back and finding a way, figuring it out on the waiver wire, any port in a storm? How do you feel about the running back position? I have to say, Pat, this year with the running back class the way it is, the rookie group, it is really tempting to wait as long as you can. I feel really confident, maybe overly confident, more confident than I've felt in a long time about a group. Everyone from Caleb Johnson, Travion Henderson, even Cam Scatterboo. There's a lot of guys out there I feel really good about. And as the dynasty guy, I mean, do you think that I'm putting the cart before the horse here? Do you think I'm getting too excited about these rookies and maybe I should be thinking more about grounding my running back room first?
I don't mind if you are going with the 0 RB strategy, like locking in on maybe someone like Travion Henderson or RJ Harvey as your first pick and seeing if you can get, I don't know, one of the unsexy options like Brian Robinson Jr. or Tyrone Tracy as your second. I did a draft on Sirius XM with Mike Dempsey last night on a mock draft Monday and kind of did a 0 RB approach with one of my teams. And I think the guys I wound up with were like Aaron Jones, Travion Henderson, and Tyrone Tracy. I didn't feel too bad about that trio.
Not bad. Mike Dempsey, great guy too. Mike and Bob, two of my big mentors in this business. Love those two guys. Can't get enough of them. Terrell Furman Jr., again, when you're looking at those, hero RBs out there, there is a clear-cut group. To me, the heroes are Bijan, the heroes are Jameer, the heroes are Derrick Henry, because I just don't have questions about those guys. I got questions about CMC still. I've got questions about Saquon coming off that giant volume season. I really do. So it's tricky. To me, it's like a finite number of those guys. I know Pat made an argument about, maybe there's some other guys. Maybe it's a Kyron Williams or a Chase Brown. You feel like you could just get that one guy. But do you feel like those guys qualify as true hero RBs, or is it just those super elite 3 that I mentioned?
No, I think it's just really the super elite 3. I feel like the other guys are just kind of those RBs that I'm afraid of in that middle tier where, yes, they're the starter now, but yeah, the health was so good last year. What if that deteriorates this year? What if there's a Chase Brown injury? What if there's a Kyron Williams injury? What if you're stuck with one of those guys and then that's it. Now you're really, really struggling trying to figure out what you're going to do for backup options, and you weren't planning for this in the beginning of the year. So the Bijans, I would even throw Breece Hall in there. I think Breece Hall is one of the middle round guys that I'm actually more interested, that I think could be a really, really good running back this year. But I'm really more targeting Henry, Bijan, guys like that, those guys, Gibbs, to be my star main guys.
All right. The jury has come back and they have a decision, and it's 76%. Once again, the jury's very decisive today. Outside of one decision, it's been very in the 70s. I got to give everybody credit here. 70% of people here watching the show today on Fantasy Draft Court think that they prefer to get that one dude, that one hero. So adios to the zero. We're drafting the big hero RB, and then we're pounding those wide receiver streets, baby, into oblivion. So I don't know if it's a shocking decision. I don't think it is. I think it's one you could see coming here a little bit. People still like to lock in that one running back. I don't blame them. It makes you feel warm and fuzzy. Makes you sleep good at night to have that one running back that you can rely on. But again, be very careful who you put that moniker on. That's the one thing Judge Joey will warn you about. There's not a lot of heroes out there. Be very careful. There's a lot of heroes disguised as heroes that really are villains underneath, and they could hurt your fantasy team. And I don't want to see you hurt. I don't want to see that. Judge Joey doesn't like you getting hurt. So be careful who you deem a hero and who you follow. But of course, make sure you follow us for more fantasy football content here. The gentleman did a great job on today's show, as always, debating all of the topics of the day. I want to thank Terrell, Furman Jr., Pat Fitzmaurice for doing such a bang-up job. Like this video on the way out. Make sure you like it, and make sure you also drop your comments so you win that A.J. Brown helmet. And I want to hear from you. Hero RB, zero RB, let us know so we can help you make sure you're making the right decisions at all times. Be part of the channel. Ring the bell till it goes ding. Never miss a piece of content here, especially when court is in session. But it no longer is, because we're over time. We're getting out of here. Fantasy Court is adjourned.